for a man of nonviolence to have to say. But that was a long, long time ago. He couldn't have dreamed of the violence that government has now regimented with the consent of the people. We've got 24 nuclear submarines called Trident II commissioned. Each can launch 24 of 96 missiles it carries. It can launch 24 simultaneously. Each missile can contain 17 independently targeted maneuverable nuclear warheads. Each can travel 7,000 nautical miles, which is 14,000 when you go in both directions. It's more than halfway around the ample waste of Mother Earth. And each warhead can strike within 100 feet of a predetermined target because it was designed as a first strike weapon. And carry a warhead 10 times more powerful than the bomb that incinerated Nagasaki Un-Bel-D. 408 centers of human population with perhaps 1 million people each from one launch, capable of rendering this planet as lifeless as the moon. Will a government that would build, would a government that would imagine, conceive, manufacture, launch, and maintain on the high seas today, years after the end of the Cold War, such an omnicidal weapon, worry about these beautiful children, these women and men, these religious people praying in their church who they murdered here?
Murdered, amen.
You've got to address it all. I came back from Chiapas, Mexico 2 weeks ago. There are 1,100,000 Mayan descendants down there, full-blooded Indian peoples living an Indian lifestyle, not speaking Spanish, certainly not speaking English, speaking Mayan languages. There's still about 12 that are extant. They're starving to death. There's 75,000 armed, heavily armed military personnel of the Mexican Army, trained by our people with our tanks, with our helicopters, the same equipment you saw out here assaulting this little church. 75,000 against their own people. That's compared to 36,000 NATO troops in Bosnia, where you've got 3 armies to worry about, not Indian peasants who don't have guns even. That's the kind of militarism that we're carrying on. Our military budget for the last fiscal year was $265 billion, which is 5 times greater than the second largest nation. The People's Republic of China, that we fear so much, spent $32 billion. But our money is spent far more efficiently. Look at the Trident II. If violence is the purpose of the dimes you spend on militarism. On March the 11th of 1993, 2 good men of the cloth, Dean Kelly, who spent the last 30 or 40 years of his life struggling for religious freedom worldwide and became the director of the National Council of Churches Committee on Religious Freedom, and James Burr, who's the director of the what's called the Baptist Joint Committee, wrote a letter to the President of the United States, William Jefferson Clinton. This is 11 days into this brutal siege in which every conceivable form of psychological torture that had been learned through years and years of experience was employed on the women and children who they subsequently cremated right here. And the first sentence of that letter was, "Dear Mr. President, please end the military confrontation the United States is conducting against that church now. We're afraid people will be killed." Everybody knew what was happening. Basically, we're in a struggle for the truth that can set us free. We've always known that the long struggle for freedom is between memory and forgetting. But you have to remember the truth. And the essential thing is to establish the truth. And we see an enormous conspiracy against the truth. Do you remember the polls in 1993, by coincidence, the poll showed 93% of the American people blamed David Koresh for all the deaths that occurred here. What madness, you know. You see what a struggle we have. The president's still talking, it was our fault. He's like, the devil made me do it, you know. It is essential that we struggle for the truth. That's what this lawsuit is about. That's why people like Joe Phillips work night and day struggling for the truth to come out. We only need one thing to get it, and that's a simple order that says the United States government must tell us what it did, what it knows, because it is the actor that conducted all of these assaults, that shot and bombed and killed these people. The truth will out. The question is when. And our duty as human beings to see that it is out quickly and soon. We have to engage in the struggle for the duration until the truth is known. We owe it to those who died here. Amen. We owe it to those who come here after. We've been told, and I think it's true, that justice is truth in action. Without the action, you're not going to get justice. You know? We have to act. We can act. We've got to carry on every front. That's why these films, like Michael and others are making, are so critically important, because they're the powerful means of communication to people who are saturated with information and misinformation and garbage constantly. They can't see important things, things that are important to the survival of everything we cherish, including the Constitution of the United States and we the people. The struggle was told long ago. Today is the 50th anniversary of Israel. We have to remember its suffering. We have to remember that the Star of David flew on the flagpole there. I wonder how many U.S. troops that irritated. You remember that the ATF flag went up later? Can you remember that? Never forget, the ATF flag flew on that flagpole. God help us. What barbarism. Whatever the state of Israel has done to the Palestinian people, we have to remember their suffering and share in it, and remember the suffering of the Palestinian people and prevent it. We have to love all the people and prevent violence and demilitarize the planet. And in the ancient Hebrew words of Deuteronomy, above all, our command is tzedek, tirdof. Justice, justice, thou shalt pursue. God bless you, everyone.